Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ask a Doula Giver. My name is Susanna Bryan. Today, we have Amanda Kuda. Amanda teaches a modern approach to personal development, self-actualization, and spiritual enlightenment through the lens of elective sobriety. I am so excited about hearing this and talking to this woman. Amanda is currently releasing her book, Unbottled Potential, this week. Amanda, thank you so much for being here. The minute that I heard about your book and what you teach, I was like, I have to get her on a podcast. And even though we're like the deaf educators, you don't understand. There's so much in this space that I want to talk to you about that enlightenment, about how removing alcohol and many other things in our life can really bring us to that place of spiritual alignment for our purpose and what we're doing here. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, Suzanne. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Me too. So I was reading, obviously, about you and your background, but I want to honor, and I think it's so exciting how, I don't want to say that you stumbled on this, but it kind of seems like, and I'm going to ask you some questions in a minute, that in 2017, when you did the dry January, which I love, by the way, and boy, we all could probably take a break at that point in January, that you were like, what's happening here? Something's happening here. And I really feel really good. And you dug deeper, and then you went out, and again, you can fill in the missing pieces here to look for, okay, so if I don't have a drinking problem and I don't need AA, but I'm feeling something shifting by removing alcohol from my day to day. And I want to know what this is, and I want more about it. So you went online, you tried to research, are there programs? You didn't find any. So what did you do? You created on your own. And I have to tell you, it's kind of similar with my Path and Doula Givers. Create what you're looking for. So let's go back to that time, if you could. 2017, you decided to do share with us your journey. You're a youngin', you're in, the midst of your life where alcohol plays such a role in so many of our lives. And we can talk about that as well, because to make the decision, as we say, to put down the Kahlua and pick up the kombucha, which I love, really does come with an adjustment in our life. So take me back to that place, if you would. Where were you 2017 leading up to this dry January?
Yeah, well, in 2017, I had just really started, a couple of years before that, onto a more spiritually focused, personal development focused journey. I had kind of done my rite of passage in my late teens and early 20s as a party girl and really done the social scene. And that was such a huge part of my identity. But I started to have this kind of spiritual awakening, existential crisis type thing go on that happened in my late 20s, that I really started to appeal to this lifestyle that, I had this like kind of holy grail trinity of women who I was looking up to at that point in time. And they were Marie Forleo, Gabby Bernstein, and Chris Carr, who is a shared mentor of ours. And I really just admired what they were doing. They were on Oprah, they were speaking, they were writing, they had this ease about them to their lives. And I thought, I want that. I want that. Can I have that? I don't know. And so I started reading everything that, Oprah suggested. Basically, she was my ringleader. And I really wanted for this more enlightened, more spiritual, more peaceful, more easeful life. And I think I probably am a little bit ahead of my time. And I've always kind of been like what I would call an old soul. But I just felt so deeply that what they were teaching wasn't just like marketing bullshit that they were selling to make money. It was, I really believed it. And I couldn't quite get there no matter what I read, what I did, how many meditations I did, how many journals I journaled in. It didn't seem like anything was sticking. And so I started realizing that maybe it wasn't so much about adding more of these practices into my life, but maybe it was about removing something that was detracting from their efficacy. And the only thing that I could really find that wasn't in alignment with this higher path was alcohol. And that was a disturbing realization, because I didn't have a problem. I'm not someone who thinks alcohol is bad, wrong, or evil, or you're damned to hell and you're a terrible person if you drink. But it just really stood out as the outlier of, this is incongruent with the lifestyle that I want. but I didn't want to hear that, Suzanne, because it was such a staple in my social life.
Yeah.
And it's what I had used to fit in. I am not someone who naturally is I'm naturally outgoing, but I don't naturally feel confident to be outgoing. And
Right.
so alcohol had always been a tool, a social lubricant that I used to help kind of bring out that more eccentric and outgoing piece of me. And I was terrified of how I would get along in the world if I didn't have alcohol as my social crutch, my emotional band-aid. And so I didn't want that to be the solution. And I fought it for a long time and really tried to, dabble in moderation. And that, we could get into was just more trouble than it was worth. And finally, I got to January 2017. I tried all of these other little kind of half-ass for the better, for no better word, approaches. And I decided I'm just going to take a break. I'm just going to see what happens and what I can do. And in that 30 days of just taking a curious, let's see what happens break, I started to feel better. And I also started to sense that 30 days wasn't going to really amount to much. And I just kept going. And eventually, which I'm sure we'll discuss, but as the story goes, one thing led to another. And now I'm here 7.5 years later or so, teaching about elective sobriety, teaching about sobriety as a tool for spiritual enlightenment and personal development, and writing a book about it. And you're right. I would not have planned this, but this is the plan that presented itself to me, and I followed it.
Well, what I love about you so much is that you said, wait a minute, the one thing that I could come up with that's not in alignment, I don't want to give that up.
Nope, sure did not.
And you did anyway. And eventually, and I think that's so important. But here's the other thing, liquid courage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that alcohol is that liquid courage. And I think for 99% of us that are out, not, we have the human experience that we're feeling, but it breaks down our walls and it makes us think that we're more charming, better looking, or whatever it does. Because I love when we talk about that, like the alcohol, we get better looking after a couple of drinks.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important because it's almost ingrained in our upbringing in society that it's not only socially acceptable, but when you remove it from your life journey, sometimes people are like, well, I don't even know if it's that they think what's wrong with you as much as or equally as they're thinking that maybe you're judging them. So it's a very, and we'll go into those dynamics, but I agree with you. Now, I grew up in New York City, so the social scene, and it was so much fun. We had so much fun, but at the end of the day, alcohol is a poison.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you feel really, really bad after. And I'm extremely sensitive to that. And it was so funny because we used to, go out and dancing and have so much fun. And literally that you'd be sick for like 2 days. And the minute you started feeling better, we would go out again.
Time to do it again.
Then we do it again. And it was only when I was 26, when I had my child, that, okay, now alcohol was not, my life was so different that I was like, I feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel consistently really good. And there was also some enlightened energy that was just blooming and blossoming and shining. I look back to the drinking and I'm thinking, gosh, you'd have fun, you'd drink, and then you'd go like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd go up and then you go like this. And of course, how can you really make headway in your life and your purpose with that contracting and expanding?
Yeah.
So I agree with everything that you're saying. But we need to talk, I think, about the benefits of us in this human journey. And now I'm going to speak from that end of life practitioner. At the end of life, when, again, we're holistic beings and, we're 4 bodies of energy. And as I'm seeing people's physical bodies diminishing at the end of life, their spiritual bodies growing. Mm-hmm. They have this profound wisdom and insight. I call it when they get their spiritual eyes. And it's so life-changing to be in front of that and to hear that. And we can do things, we have to do the work, right? When we're in our human body, but we can do things to up-level that wisdom, that being part of us, that enlightened part. And that's when you talk about it, it gives me goosebumps. Removing alcohol is such a fast way to help do that. Now, it doesn't come without, and you said it yourself, I don't want to give that up. wait a minute, hold on. This is part of my social scene. So we're really going to address things like of that nature. But I'll even go into when we eat clean and when we're doing that grounding meditation, we feel that enlightened way too. So I think alcohol is one of the quick ways for people to be able to, if they want to step up and speed up their purpose enlightenment, they might want to even just try, like you said, putting down the alcohol for a while and seeing how that feels, trying that on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you call it, people getting their spiritual eyes, because I think that, I use a different analogy in when I write, but from that perspective, I think that what I noticed is I wanted to have those spiritual eyes when I was drinking. And what I was doing though is I was blurring the image. So it's like I was, and I mean literally, like your image does, your view does get blurry when you drink, but it was like trying to look through the spiritual eyes with a pair of Coke bottle glasses that weren't my prescription.
Mhm.
And it was hard and it was frustrating and things weren't making sense. And when I finally took off those glasses and put on the ones that belonged to me, that would let me see clearly, I had this spiritual sight that and connection that was unfathomable to me before, and just really beautiful and really miraculous. And to think that I'd wanted for it for so long and it was right there within reach, but I'd been making a conscious choice to blur it, that is very, it's a little, I wouldn't even say disturbing. I don't know, but I just have so much tenderness for that girl who wanted to have that experience, but was holding myself back from it unwittingly.
Yeah. And I think like when we hear about, waiting to Friday and going out and drinking and partying, I think like the human experience again has so many things that are heavy, that we
Mhm,
carry with us. And
mhm,
I either say we're runners or we're numbers.
mhm.
There's no judgment in this, but alcohol can be used to run away from feelings and things that we're carrying, and it works for that little window where you are like, "Oh, doing whatever you're doing," and then guess
Yeah.
what? Your problems are not only still there, they're probably going to intensify because they want to be seen and heard, those hurts, those things that were, and we can't do that if we're constantly going this way and that way. It's only when we can stop and really be present in what we're feeling and how we're being that you can release it, and then you can open up to your potential, whatever you want in life. So let's talk about somebody who's curious. And I love how
Mhm,
you say it. It's sober curious. It's not, I don't have a problem necessarily. I don't have to go to LAA, but I'm curious about what this would be like. What would you advise? Because there's, even at my age, which by the way, I'm in my 50s, here we go. There's still so many things that are centered around alcohol-based activities. And it's not my first jam. Like, it's not my priority. I'd rather do a yoga class or meditation or go on the beach or something. But a lot of stuff circles around that. What about for people who are in their 20s and 30s? What can they do, and how can they step into this space and have a full social life without feeling, again, that they're compromising or being left out of it?
No, that's a great question. And that was one of my biggest fears. And what I had to realize is that, and I didn't realize this until I had hindsight. So I just want to turn you on to it. If you're one of those people, no matter what age you are, that you are worried that your social life will be dismal, that you'll become a social recluse, you'll get rejected from your social circle, whatever fear you have, I have had it too. And no one and other people have had it as well. But from a spiritual perspective, we like attracts like. So when I was a drinker, I was attracting more people who were drinkers and partiers and socialites. And because of that, I also had a limited perception. So it was like I was wearing blinders. So
Mhm,
all I could see were more people
mhm.
like me, which made me swear to you, Suzanne, that everyone drank and that I would not be able to have a social life without alcohol in the picture because there weren't other people. And I live in Austin, Texas. This is a large city. There are a lot of people. And what I was being stubborn about is I was not willing to take off those blinders and widen my perception. But the moment I did that, the moment I said, okay, I'm willing to believe, I'm willing to see that there are other people and other activities out there that don't involve drinking, which of course there were. Of course there were. I was just being narrow sighted, close minded, and stubborn. As soon as I opened up and I said, I'm willing to see this differently, I'm willing to see other possibility and other people that exist, all of a sudden, boom, 100% of the there are
Yeah.
people all around me who I could befriend, and activity to what my fear was, trying to survive these boozy social situations, not drinking, which seemed awful. And a lot of the times it was. I actually, there were other options of things that I could do, but I was so in my own little narrow mind that I could not see that possibility. And so, what I would recommend is just be willing to open up to the possibility that there are other people and other things. Now, you have to go out and find them. They won't, some of them will find you, but not always. You have to be willing to look, you have to do the work. But I think that I just decided, I'm going to try to keep doing some of the things that I enjoyed when I was partying, and maybe, just maybe, I'll still enjoy them, or maybe I'll get a reality check and I'll realize that what made those things fun was the fact that I was a little fuzzy, a little loopy, a little drunk. And that's okay too, because
Yeah.
there are other options of things to do, and I'm willing to be brave and try those. And I think it's just shifting that perception from lack mentality to possibility mentality. And that really helped me when I was able to see the world through that lens.
I love that. So for me, working with people at the end of life, the number one regret is that they really didn't live the life that they know they were here to live.
Mm,
This
hmm.
comes up for all of us. We know there's more. We know I'm here for a reason. I have a purpose. And when we do certain activities and don't get to it, we're just living in that unconscious space of not finding it. You've got to give yourself the opportunity to be able to hear, to be able to see clearly what is your path. And I think it's so interesting to me how not only socially acceptable alcohol is, but it's almost like pounded into us to
Hmm.
the commercials to, you're cool if you drink and you've got to get out there. And it's literally keeping us from really being able to align and hear our purpose. And when you find your purpose, which I know that, I have with my work, it's like breathing for the first time. There's nothing that's sweeter, than doing that. And everyone has that capability. So I love that you're sharing that. Let's talk about the book. So how did it come that you wanted to write a book? And I want to hear I love the title, Unbottled Potential.
Hmm.
Can you share with us how that came about, what's in that book? And then of course, we're going to share how people can get it.
Of course. Well, I've known since I was a little girl that I was going to write a book. I just never, I would have never, I didn't even know what self-help was when I was a second grader. So I had a very different perception of what this book would be back then. But as I started getting turned on more and more and more to this new way of being and new way of thinking, I realized that I was onto something, and I had tapped into an ability to live the life that I was meant to live, that so many people, that's, like you were talking, like that's their regret on their dying day, or their wish is that they would have figured it out, or they would have lived more of life. And I realized that I had fallen for this lie that cutting loose and having fun and drinking was it.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I realized that no, this is actually making me do more mundane, predictable, average, run-of-the-mill things that aren't aligned with whatever it is I'm supposed to do. And in fact, it's making me uncurious, uncreative, unclear, incapable of figuring out even what that thing is. Like, I just couldn't even fathom nor have the self-confidence to go after what I was really supposed to do in life when I was a drinker. And I felt like it just kept me marching along in unison with everyone else. It was, kind of gave me this herd mentality. So when I looked at my then, I realized that I wasn't emotionally very stable, even though I was pretty good at putting on a show, but inside my inner world was chaotic. Um, in terms of my professional life, I had chosen a career that I thought was good, right? Monetizable, secure. I had picked something that was outside of what I really wanted to do, because I thought that was what was expected, and that was what would get me the money and the security that I desired, or that I, needed and had to have. I didn't have great relationships. I had a large social network, but the depth and vulnerability of those connections was limited, and my romantic life was very stunted and unfulfilling. So I look at all of these things that I wasn't living up to my potential in, because potential isn't just an achievement or an accolade or an amount of money or whatever it is, a trophy. It's like, are you living the authentic, wholehearted life that you are able to live and that you want to live? And when I looked at my life, the answer was no, I'm not.
Mhm.
And I had the sense that alcohol was keeping me small and stuck. And when I turned it on its head and thought about it that way, instead of the way that we've been taught to think about it, like if you don't drink, you have a problem. If you don't drink, you're missing out on something. And I started to believe and brainwash myself into thinking drinking is what's keeping me from is what's making me miss out. It's making me miss out on my life. And I deserve to live a life that's better than this. And I want to start now. I don't want to wait until that dying day and think, wow, I wish I wouldn't have, partied so much, because then maybe I would have written the book that was in me. And I just
Ooh,
felt like everyone else deserved to hear that too. Like, I don't want people drinking away their dreams and all of the time that they have to give whatever it is they could give to the world. And, I'm under no illusion that this book is for everyone and that everyone needs to or wants to or should quit drinking. But I think there's a very significant number of us who want to wake up right now and they want for something more. And maybe they're a little unaware that drinking might be holding them back. So I feel like it's just like my moral calling to give them the permission slip and the guide that I have. And
yeah.
that's where the book came into play. It was like I had to write it so that other
Yeah.
people could have this knowledge and this other way of thinking. And I really wanted it to be different from a lot of the literature in this. It's called like quit lit is the name of the genre that I'm in, where you're talking about quitting alcohol. And I wanted it to be this very like uplifting, possibility focused story to inspire people, not to make people afraid.
You know, you just mentioned in what you shared every aspect of a human experience, relationships, job, how you felt about yourself, leveling up, everything leveled up when you quit living alcohol. And when you didn't, you were saying, I'm not doing a job. I thought it was, everyone told me this, or the relationships. And I can say that. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, our antenna is off, like in all
Yes.
these areas. And this is your life. This is your
Mhm.
life. And so let's go back, if we could, and talk about energy,
Mhm.
because I want to
Mhm.
talk about you said like attracts like, and this is really true. It's like what we're feeling, our emotion, and how our frequency is what attracts back to us.
Mhm.
And when we're not feeling well or drinking, by the way, like when you're hungover and your body's sick and you're having these thoughts like, oh, you're just in that place, think about all those signals you're putting out there. I
Mhm.
mean, you can't get your life going in the
No.
real way that you want to with that.
Mm-mm.
um so I feel like when you said this, and it's really true, this was something you had to do, is write this book and give this tool to people, because just sharing, first of all, your experience, but just saying this one thing may be like the key for you, not just in a career or in relationships, but in all of it.
Yeah.
And so giving people that inside look at it, which
Mhm.
I think is scary, because I
It
do
is.
personally know that there are people that had to and drop some friendships that weren't serving them, and that's what growth is, though. And
Mhm.
aren't you the most important person here? And
Yeah.
you can find your people and your tribe, but it's most
Mhm.
important to find you. So I love it. Tell us a little bit more about what's in the book and what people can expect when they get it.
Yes. So the book is a holistic look at how alcohol has most likely infiltrated so many of the facets of your life, and how it really is something that mentally you need to kind of go through a breakup with. And there's certain steps to initiate and heal through that breakup that are really important. It's not just about saying, okay, well, I'm not going to drink anymore, because it's more about the mental perception we have about alcohol, but also ourselves. And that's the thing that I needed to be turned on to. I didn't need to learn all of the science about alcohol. Like, that was helpful to re-remind it was bad for me. But guess what, Suzanne? I knew it was bad for me in fifth
Did
grade when I
you?
went to
Okay.
Dare. They tell you that drugs and
Yeah,
alcohol are bad. So I
yeah,
knew
yeah,
it. but I still drink it. And so I needed to get past the mental perception I had of why it was helping me, why it was necessary, why I thought it was beneficial. And so I really guide the reader through the first half of the book of how to rewire that mindset that has been programmed into us, rewrite the story we've accepted. And in the second half of the book, I delve into each of the areas of holistic living: your emotional life, your personal goals, your professional goals, your spiritual connection, your relationships, your friendships, and how alcohol has probably stunted your growth or atrophied those muscles, and how you can start to really flex those muscles and get your strength and confidence back in those areas, and also really tap into and elevate your potential and your expression of success in life. And I'm just really excited to share it because I think that it's taking a very wholehearted and positive approach to doing this thing that's kind of like renegade like. It's very cutting edge to
Yeah.
change the relationship with alcohol, but this is also the best time to do it because it's kind of becoming a popular conversation, and I'm really glad to like be in the forefront of the conversation while it's being had.
Yeah, people are waking up on all levels. And so this is just a great part of that wake up. And
Mhm.
it's really interesting because when I think about, when I'm in situations and I don't drink alcohol by choice, it's very interesting because when I think of why do we drink, and there's no judgment here, but I'm thinking about, okay, when? So sometimes it's to relax and fit in a little bit more, right? With your liquid
Mhm.
courage. And sometimes it's to just forget about all the worries that you have in your life. Is that really the answer? Is that
Yeah.
really helping? And so I understand, but we also want to give people the tools where you can literally then really be clear on moving past those things, that you're not just keep pushing them down. And this is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Two questions I have for you. What was your biggest aha moment during this time that you have not had alcohol? What was your biggest challenge that you found?
Oh, so I'll relate them back together. And actually, I think this is really great because it relates directly back to your audience who are helping and supporting people at in a very, very tender time. And, I've lost both of my grandparents, and that's like human loss that I've experienced, which is very, is very interesting and growth initiating. And the about 4.5 years, 5 years into my journey is when I got my book deal. And that was the height of my happiness and success, and so exciting. And literally within that same, like a 2 week period, I lost one of my pets of 12 years. And this was like a soul pet, right, Suzanne? So I might even get a little tender here talking about it. And it's been 2.5 years. It was the most overwhelming flood of emotions I'd ever experienced, deep, intense grief. And I had no choice but to feel it and feel all of it. And
Yeah.
it was really difficult, but it was also really, really precious because it was such a stupendous reflection of, wow, this I loved so deeply. How lucky I was to have loved so deeply. And it was hard to feel it. You can still hear it in my voice. It's been probably 2.5 years, I guess now. And I'm so proud of being able to feel that.
Yeah.
And I know that there were past versions of me that would have bypassed it, or even younger, immature versions of me. And you're not immature if you drink when you are in grief or anything. I just want to illustrate like how powerful and beautiful this was for me. But there were
Mhm.
definitely versions of me that probably would have tried to drink that pain away.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for the brave version of me who was willing to feel it and experience it and let it process. And also, I think it was such a wonderful way to honor that soul that I loved so much, to say, I love you so much that I'm willing to feel this pain. And so it's just so like, it's just such an enlightening moment to feel and experience that. But I had a coaching moment during, just after COVID. I was working with a woman who was a nurse, and she dealt with a lot of COVID ward patients. So not precisely the type of work that your audience is doing, but quite similar. And she was just traumatized. And she said, Amanda, I've not stopped drinking and I've not gone to therapy because I'm afraid to feel the pain. And I looked at her and I said, isn't that what you're doing every day though, when you choose to hold on to it? And I realized that, when we drink, we're not getting rid of our pain. We're not making it smaller. We're pickling it. We're preserving it and holding it for later. And that is not good. We don't want to do that. Even as uncomfortable as it is to feel it, it's worse to pickle it and hold it in your body and store it and then keep storing it every
Oh,
day.
it's
It's
exhausting.
exhausting.
Exhausting. And I really even think it grows. I think it gets
Yeah,
worse
I think
because
so.
we compound it, when we're
Mhm.
just doing that. That is so powerful, Amanda. And
Yeah.
I love when you said, I'm going to stand in courage and feel this because I love you so much.
Mhm.
That is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think it's such a way to honor someone or a soul, no matter what soul form that soul took. Like, it's a way to show like the deepest honor to them.
And it's honestly the only way to move through it.
Hmm.
So it
Yeah.
serves you, but it also is such a beautiful thing for your animal. I love that
Hmm.
so much.
Yeah.
This book is so special, and I'm so excited because I know how much potential each and every person has if they just unbottle it. How
Hmm.
can they get this book? And congratulations on it.
Thank
It's out this
you.
week. I'm so excited to get my copy. How can our listeners get the book?
Well, you can grab it wherever books are sold. Amazon is obviously probably the easiest, but we love to celebrate and support local sellers. But I did read the audio book, so you can get that on Amazon, which is really special. I think it's nice to hear the emotion. Obviously, you can tell I'm an emotional person, so I think you get a special level of connection with that audio book. And but I'd love for you to support it in any way. And would love to connect with you if this resonated with you at all.
Great. So we have all of her information below. Amanda, I want to thank you so much for writing this book and for being here on the podcast. You're absolutely just such a gift.
Oh, thanks, Suzanne. I appreciate you so much.
All right, everyone. Her information is below. Get unbottled potential and unbottle your potential. This is one life that we have to live. Don't let it get by without you being your best version of you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being on this episode of Ask a Death Doula, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks.